consistently treating your fan very, very bad, and they will still support you. It's amazing.
Hired by FC Barcelona to be the first dedicated club host and content creator.
Pressure culture today doesn't exist, and you still identify yourself as the customer of that company.
When Fati came up, he was 16 and he was dribbling past everyone in trainings. Am I going to humiliate one player to elevate the other player? I know many people, but Fabrizio is probably the hardest working guy that I know. He produces more than a football club.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Gameday, and today with another good friend and special guest, Aviv.
Okay.
Thank you so much for making the time. It has been hard to meet the agendas, but at the end we made it.
Yes. No, thank you for having me. And you told me yesterday your travel itinerary, and it was difficult to follow. So happy you could also make time, and happy to be on your show.
No, it's an episode that I really wanted to do because I think you've been fundamental to the evolution of the sport industry, and I don't say by chance. Why don't you take us a little bit through your career and what brought you to FC Barcelona? You work at Ajax and now creating Double Tap.
Yeah, so I'll go a little bit back at like 7-8 years ago. I was a data analyst. It's not like this romantic story, no, but I was a data analyst for a media company. Then I decided I wanted a change, basically because I wanted to chase my dreams of working in football. So I did a master in sports management here in Barcelona in the University Pompeu Fabra. Then I started looking for jobs in sports or football, or specifically like working for FC Barcelona. So I started applying. No one got back to me. Very difficult. If you know, it's very difficult to find a job in football, especially the first time you enter. So I did a LinkedIn post, like looking for a job in football. And one guy reached out to me, said, isn't 433 something for you? 433, I think most of the people know. For those who don't know, it's the biggest football publisher in the world. Now I think the page is like 80 million followers only on Instagram, and it's great everywhere. So I gave it a go. I applied, and after a few calls, they hired me as a partnerships manager in Amsterdam. Team was super small, like consists only of 5-6 people. But that was like my in football, you know. So like fast forward, like after a lot of experiences, like going to games, all of a sudden, like I transitioned into being a content creator, you know, because you get sent to places, to football matches. So I thought, okay, why don't I combine it with also making some content? So I started doing that. And then actually at one of our first activations ever, it was Barca Chelsea, round of 16, Champions League. And we were doing this activation with FC Barcelona, and I'm there, and a good friend of ours, Eric Serra, tells me, yo, why wouldn't you want to do this for FC Barcelona? Like this content creator thing, which was super new back in the days. I'm speaking about March 2018. So for me, that was like mind blowing, and I played a little bit hard to get, but I told him, yo, if this ever becomes like concrete, you know, like let me know. So a few months later, he sends me a message like, yo, I need your CV right now. Sending the CV, and again, after a few months of like job interviews and getting to know almost all the bosses there, I got hired by FC Barcelona to be the first dedicated club host and content creator. Now, if you open Instagram and you go on a random match day to any team, Italian second division, and you go to a random team, you will see that there's a guy or girl presenting on their match days, you know, making content. But back in the days, it was a first. It's like, oh wow, you have a presenter only for your Instagram stories and digital short form content. So that was that. And then I did that for 3 years. Then I also had a chance to work for Ajax, also as a content creator. Did that for 2 years. And in the meantime, I started my own agency, Double Tap, which is a football creator agency representing talent, but also working together with brands to make cool stuff happen in the world of football.
Yeah,
In short.
I said at the intro that you were fundamental in changing the sport industry and football, because, as you said, at the time when you joined FC Barcelona, no one was creating content as a club in first person.
Yeah.
And that was a fundamental shift from the classic way clubs were communicating as a brand to suddenly try to personalize the brand.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm not like, I wouldn't say like I was born a content creator, you know, because yeah, I was always like data or business, and then I kind of, because of the opportunities, like took me that way. Said, okay, yeah, I'm going to start filming myself. Okay, this works, and at 433 they accepted me doing that. Never studied communications or anything. So when Barcelona came and said, hey, we need this figure, if it's me or someone else, but we need this figure because, I mean, if you look at a football team, you have the 25, 30 players of the first team. And that's pretty much it, you know, of people who can tell a story. Okay, you have the staff, but they are usually very low key on the back in the background. So that connecting factor of having like an in-house person who tells the stories, who takes the fans with them on match days to show them behind the scenes. The warm up, the arrivals, create simple and short content. So I think like Barcelona back in the days was definitely one of the pioneers as well. I think it was a brave decision, but also a good decision on their part.
100%. And especially because you were also changing the way content was told and created for football clubs. If you think about the content you see on social media, it's a lot your friends' content, it's a lot content creators that talk in first person to the camera. So back in the days, you were seeing clubs doing stories behind the scene, but no one telling the story of what was happening. So they were just shooting the content and posting, but no one was telling the story. How did you take on that challenge? Because you didn't have a role model to look at or a way to follow. You have to create your own path, and you need to balance between all the politics and big communication decisions of a big brand like FC Barcelona, and bring it to life into a new way of communication. So how did you manage that process?
I think you mentioned one word, politics, and I think when I entered 2018, it was also, okay, we have this guy, what are we going to do with this guy, right? So I'm going to take him and put him straight into the training facilities. And there was also some of the communications officers who were not sure what to do with me, you know, like, okay, should we present him to the players? So they started to present me to a few players, like, hey, this guy, if you see someone, you know, with the phone on the sidelines, just so you know, this is one of our own. We brought him in. He's going to create content. We're going to be seeing him. And the younger guys could relate. The older guys were like, okay, this is strange for us, you know, because they were used to the typical photographer and one camera, and that's it. Like the rest is out of bounds. So I think definitely in the first year and a half, it was difficult, you know, for people to get used to it. Also got told off many times for something that I thought was a good idea, and I filmed. They were like, no, we're this football club, you cannot be doing this, you cannot be filming here, or you cannot be saying this. But it was also, okay, it was a battle. I was telling them, okay, you're used to communicating this way, but actually like 90% of our fan base or digital fan base wants to get their content this way, or, you know, want to be talked to this way in this language and not in the formal, super, you know, like traditional language. So it was a constant back and forth. Okay, we have to change some stuff. And I was just, you know, like one little pin in that process. but it's also like, okay, it took a lot of convincing, and we had, not to be like, young versus old, but it does take some time to convince people, okay, that you're doing a right thing.
And I think also building the relationship with the players, no,
Yes.
it was key in all this process, because they needed to trust you that you were not going to shoot content that will put them in a difficult position. Or how was also that process of building that relationship with the players? Because a lot of people, when they come to football, or to the sport industry, it's a very sexy industry, because you get to know all these superstars, and sometimes it's very hard for people to behave in a way. No, how were you managing also that situation?
So I think just being the first bit cliche, but just being myself. I think you also always have to be okay. I'm here, but it's not about me. So you try to be like more in the background, more understanding of the situation. And like don't put yourself too much out there, because that might trigger a few people. And then I think it's just time. Time gains trust. The more you're there, the more you hear, for example, the players cursing, but you're not posting it, by mistake, or you overhear something, and for example, you're filming it, but you don't forget to turn off the audio. Like these kind of things. Like always be super mindful of like where you are. There's a lot of sensitive information. For example, like sometimes a player would join the training session with I don't know, new boots that are yet to come out, and you can film that player. Or the club says a player is injured, but he's not injured and he's playing, but you also cannot show the player. So all these little things that we don't really know behind the scenes, if you keep executing them, like with good discretion over a long period, then that's where you gain trust, and that's where you say, okay, I can say anything next to this guy, and he will protect me. He will not try to make like create like controversies around my name, or for example, but also let's say football terms, right? Um, I remember there was a case where Ansu Fati came up. He was 16 and he was dribbling past everyone in trainings, uh, and he put some people on their ankles. Like he did twist some ankles, and then you have to also be careful. Am I going to humiliate one player to elevate the other player? So this is a constant battle. Like, what kind of content do you choose to do? And most of the times, okay, I'm not going to humiliate one of my own players, so I'm not going to post this piece of content. And those everyday decisions, like, okay, I believe if you consistently take the right one, that's where you gain the trust.
And you were mentioning that when you came in, like the old people from I'm talking about the players, the more veteran people that were not used to see someone with a phone around them, were a little bit more skeptical. With younger people was easier, because they were more used to, and also they were users of these platforms and everything. It got to a point where the players were asking you for content to post for their own channel.
Sometimes yes. I mean, you had a few players that were just naturally like more attracted to this whole thing. So like a classic example is the World Cup, right? So you have the training pitch, and then people walk on the pitch. So you have, I think, three types of people. People who say just normal good morning and keep walking, respectful that the camera is not only a camera, but it's also a person behind the camera. So good morning. You have people who, for example, who go like do like funny stuff, crazy stuff. Like there's a camera and I'm going to do like crazy faces or hand gestures. Like Griezmann, for example. Griezmann, like he was very good always in interacting with the cameras. And you have a few players who are like, okay, this guy is filming me again. Maybe I don't want to be, like, so I'm just gonna walk on straight, no interaction. And then it's like a kind of like, I would say, AI, so I'm like a robot, like the machine, and I learn the players after a while. And if a player consistently, like doesn't greet, doesn't this, I'm also not posting him. So he sees I'm not posting the player. If he doesn't greet, he sees I post the players who greet. So he keeps not greeting and I keep not posting them. And then it's like that is the new status quo, and they're happy with it. And then I'm also happy with it, because at the end, what you want to show to the players is, um, now, like an example, you have the phone, and like I always used to film like this, and like always, the fist bump. Now everyone is doing it always, but I think back in the days it was pretty revolutionary when you have the phone and there's a fist bump, and even Rakitic comes to fist bump the camera, so if when you watch the stories of FC Barcelona, you see Rakitic coming to fist bump, oh, nice, what a nice guy, like this is good content. So also, like, you kind of learn like as you go.
Yeah, there's when I was at working at Meta, there was one report that we were looking at among the millions of data points that we had, and there was one thing that caught my attention, because it said that on average, I don't remember the exact percentage, but on average, a video that has a face on it, like very predominantly, performs like 20-30% better than a video with not a short first shot of a face. And one of the reason is because we spend so much time on our phone, and we spend a lot of time also doing video calls, that when we see content in stories or in a video, in a reel, where you see a face, it feels like, to your brain, it feels like your video calling that person. It recalls that behavior and automatically creates a better connection to the content. So it was something really interesting that connects two things that we use our phones for. And when you were doing that work, actually you completely changed the way people were connecting with the club, because suddenly there was a face that was interacting with them, and I thought that was the biggest revolution that you and the team at FC Barcelona at that time driven.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I wasn't aware actually of that. So that's a cool one.
Hey, I don't remember the exact number or the percentage, but it was a thing. Like the content with the face on the short frame, because it remember our brain that we are video calling with someone, and normally when we do video calls, it's with someone close to us, and that creates like a deeper connection.
It's funny you mentioned, because I think one of my first games, it's like, okay, before I used to, when I was at 433, you support all the clubs, right? So you go to AS Roma, you're like, yo, AS Roma fans, we're here in Rome and this game, and then you go to Bayern the next week and you do the same, and you have the energy and whatever. And then when you go to a club, and you do the same for the club, and then people, okay, they see you 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, 20 times, 30. It's like, okay, this guy is one of us. Like, as you say, he's speaking to us. He's like, hey, today's match day, we're playing against Getafe, come, let me show you this. Then you go show this, then you go to speak with fans. Then after the game, maybe you get something from a player. Okay, he is in charge of all the content that we're going to see. So, like, he's one of ours. And I think also what's very different between like working for a publisher and working for a team is that emotional connection. So you love a team, right? So you don't love like a 433, for example, or any other publisher. You love a team because you grew up with a team. So if you have a person doing that job, it's like it's one of the guys. It's like the connector between the first team and whatever we see.
Yeah, I like to say that football is one of the few industries where the lifetime value of a customer or a fan, it's all his life, because It's the only industry where no matter how bad you treat your customers, or your team can be losing, that can be considered treating your customer very bad, because as a fan you want to see the team winning. So you can be consistently treating your fan very, very bad, and they will still support you. It's amazing. It's one of the most powerful things in sports.
That's what I love about football, to be honest. And of course, it uh, depends a little bit like who you support, if it's a big club or a small club, but still, like, I mean, even if you support Manchester United, I mean, you had the glory years and now a few like very bad years, but people still show up, and it's still, I think, top 3-4 clubs of the world in terms of everything, commercial, but also attention. And I think, as you say, it's very, it keeps us moving. Most of the times I say, for example, to my girlfriend, like, I don't understand like people who don't like football, like what are they talking about, you know, in their day. For me, it's like it's always been like a very big part, you know, living up to a game, or also the boredom of not having any games, like during now, for example, the summer 2 months, if you don't have anything.
Well, this summer we are super busy with with the Club World Cup.
Luckily, there's always football.
Yeah, I have a personal story that recently happened. My stepfather, he's a fan of Brescia Calcio.
Oh wow,
the team that, you know, with
it was a big team, and
it was a big team
in the 90s.
with in the 90s, with players like Ubner or Roberto Baggio. Guardiola played there. Another club has disappeared
completely.
completely.
Yeah.
Like it went background. They were they have a sanction. They were after they were able to maintain in Serie B, but they got sanctioned for something irregularly, and then they got a penalization of, I don't know, 4 points, and then they got relegated to Serie C, and the team has disappeared now. But you still ask him, "What's your team?" And he says Brescia Calcio. But Brescia Calcio today doesn't exist. Now they're looking for a solution. They're going to refund the team. But imagine, like, you are a customer of a company, and they tell you, okay, well, you're a customer of this company, but the company has bankrupt, doesn't exist anymore, and you still identify yourself as the customer of that company. It's amazing.
That's the beauty of football.
It's the beauty of football, I should say. And how was, because you mentioned that you became the face of FC Barcelona, and I saw that live in one. I remember one US tour that I went with FC Barcelona, and I was going with the FC Barcelona staff behind the bus of the team. We get off the team get off the bus. We get off our bands, and suddenly you see people calling you to have have photos. How was that? That process from a personal perspective, that you became suddenly a public FC Barcelona face.
It's funny. It's funny you mention this, because it's something that's it's something super awkward, to be honest, because it's awkward from all the from any position, because you just mentioned it now. I didn't know you knew this. But you come off the bus, as you say, and all of a sudden, like, okay, so the first bus is a team bus, so the team is already in, right? And then we get off the bus because we are just behind it, and they were just shouting for Messi and for Suarez and Rakitic and Jordi Alba, whatever. And then we get off, and all of a sudden, this is the first time I ever experienced this, and they start calling Aviv, Aviv, and I was like, what? What is happening here? And from one perspective, you feel like kind of embarrassed, I would say, because like some of your colleagues who are not like known faces, they look at you like, why are they calling him? Like, why is this happening? Also, if you know the cultural differences, also in Catalonia, it's very much like, stay under the radar,
low profile.
You cannot be above the average. So, okay, what's happening here? But on the other hand, I mean, it feels amazing, because it feels as you kind of get recognition as well for the work that you do, but also that people feel identified with the content that you're making for them, and they grow to like you. Some of the times, like also in the stadiums, like you do get recognized or whatever. But to go to United States and you're in the entrance of the hotel and people call you, hey, you come, take pictures. And it was fantastic.
I mean, for me, I was amazed, like, because we had players, first team players that maybe they came from the young team for the first time with the first team. And for the US audience, they don't really knew them because they are not close, and they knew you. So sometimes it's like, okay, I have this top player in the world who's probably one of the top 100 players in the world, and no one is giving, no one is paying attention to him. But on the other side, I have this guy, this content creator that is capturing all the attention.
And I think that was still surreal. Sometimes I get to tell it to my friends. Like when I reminisce, look back, and it's like, this is it was in Miami, but also we played in two cities, Miami and Michigan, and in both places it was the same. So that means, but it also reinforces the thoughts, because if you live in Barcelona, like, you don't really need a person to tell you, hey, this is the Camp Nou, this is what it looks like. You've probably seen it many other times, and also in the pieces of content without a face. But if you live that far, like in the United States or Australia or India or Indonesia, and you have that person, it feels like almost like, as you said before, like a friend, a family member who's like, hey, okay, he's one of us and he's taking us. So that's why the connection was stronger with them. Sometimes I walked here on the streets, these very streets, and I would get like people coming up to me like, hey, I like your content, but why don't you speak Catalan? You have to speak Catalan, or maybe skip the I like the content, like, hey, speak Catalan in the stories, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, first of all, I'm just executing orders, They brought me to speak English, so I speak English. But then second of all, once we went into the statistics and demographics on Instagram and looked at, okay, where are people from, like 100 million people? 2% is from Spain. 2%, only 2%. The rest from, US, Brazil, Indonesia, India,
Global audience.
Global audience. So, okay, it's fine that you think, and you're also right to think that we're a local club, we have to speak the language, but also the fan base that you're addressing is way bigger.
This is, I think, a challenge, especially for Real Madrid and Barca, because it's one of the few clubs that are still owned by the club, and they are so connected to the territory. And if you think about it, the governance and the decisions of the club, it's taken by the people, by the local people. But that has an effect worldwide. So in the previous episode, we were talking with Alejandro Arenas, who you know. He used to be the head of social media for Real Madrid. And he was talking a little bit about the same challenge, how the communication team was so focused on what the local press was saying in terms of the things, the news of the club. And on the other side, the challenge that you need to talk to a global audience, and trying to find that balance, it's super difficult. And with Barca, and on top of that, you have the language, which you need to address as well, because your local fan base at the end of the day is the one making the decision, because every time the president wants to do something, he has to go to the General Assembly and ask for the votes, and not having an owner can be a challenge sometimes. On the one side, it's very romantic, and fans own the club, and that give you certainty, because I always say that an investor that comes into a club doesn't really own the club, because the club belongs to the fans and the city. And without that connection, your business, you're gonna fail in your investment. But on the other side, for the case of Real Madrid and FC Barcelona, so sometimes it poses some challenges, given that global scale that this brand have.
Yeah, definitely. And here, as you said, it's a very local club. You have the Catalan nuances, which you need to get everyone on board, especially with the presidents. My period, for example, I was during the two presidents, bigger part during the former president Bartomeu. he had a more like, let's say, a global approach in the communication. And then Laporta came, and he's known for having a strong Catalan like approach. So sometimes you see now posts only in Catalan, or I think they have currently 3 presenters, and you have one presenter, and when he's presenting, he's doing it in Catalan. So they kind of pick, like when to go with what language. But it is fascinating. It's a fascinating club because it's a global monster. But the local roots are a big part of the identity of the
and sometimes in a lot of things, it's managed like a family business. No?
Yeah.
You have this global company with some dynamics of a family business, which is fascinating. So as I said, you were a pioneer in the sport industry, and you went from data analyst to content creator to create the home of creators with Double Tap.
Yes.
How has been that entrepreneurial journey so far?
It's been good. It's been fun. I started Double Tap when COVID hit. You were at home still working for FC Barcelona, but kind of like, okay, I have a lot of free time now and a lot of time also to think. And I was like, okay, I'm here making my let's say humble salary, but that doesn't matter at that point because the doors that it opened for you, it's huge. So okay, what can I do with my skills that like resonates with the rest of the world? And as you mentioned as well, I was growing as well as a content creator and gaining my own audience. And Double Tap actually is born out of kind of I would say from egoistical ways. As I was kind of growing as a content creator, I was looking around me, and I was seeing other content creators who were working with Gatorade, with PlayStation, with Adidas, and then they were receiving products, and then this, and then that. And I wasn't ever involved in anything. So I thought, okay, who can represent me? So I started writing some agencies, and no one was interested. Like a football content creator, like we represent YouTubers, actresses, actors, models, singers, like content creator. You had in Spain, you had a few that worked with the big YouTubers, the biggest, like Grey, Mario, DJ Mario. And obviously, like I wasn't in the same category because I'm also not a streamer. So I was like, okay, I need something I need something for the simple content creator, like 50K, 100K, micro influencers to do some campaigns, maybe some seeding. So we started Double Tap. And as I was explaining this project to some other content creators, everyone was super enthusiastic because none of them were represented at that moment. And one of the guys that I told it to was Fabrizio. And it kind of coincided with, said, oh, that's funny you mentioned because I was just looking for an agency. Let's speak. So we started developing this idea. And I was very, in the beginning, you have to listen a lot. Like, okay, what does a person need? So, okay, commercial assistance. But in the case of Fabrizio, okay, we don't have a YouTube channel. We don't have a TikTok channel. We don't have Twitch, but we have big plans. So we kind of started off with that, supporting him as like our first big client. We onboarded also some 10 other talents on a non-exclusive basis because you have to gain their trust. And now 4 years later, we're more established than at the beginning.
Yeah, and how was that process of transitioning from pure content creator? Well, you were at FC Barcelona, you have a very clear direction, and you wake up every morning and you know what you have to do. I have to go to the training session, do my content, post it, follow the content plan and the strategy that is more or less set up with the team and everything. And suddenly you find yourself alone. You need to start creating the strategy for other content creators, and especially you need to, because at the end of the day, it's all about business and how you commercialize that big audience that you are creating. How was that process of in your mind, personal process of going from, okay, I know what I have to do every day, to suddenly needed to look for commercial deals for other content creators?
It's super hard. I'm not gonna lie. It was super hard because you have your routine. You're pretty comfortable as well, and then when setting up the agency, like from the moment I had the idea to actually setting it up, 1.5 year passed. So I think even if we would have done it like maybe 1.5 year before, um, you have this kind of head start, but it wasn't because okay, we have all these ideas, but how are we going to execute them? I want a website like this. I need a sales system like this. You need to start pitching. You have no idea about anything basically, like how to successfully approach a client. What do you tell them? My first email when someone replied to me was like, okay, but how much is this going to cost? This a TikTok and a reel. I'm like, it's a good question. How much is it going to cost, And then you start Googling it. And then, CPM, CPM, okay, but how much do I charge for the what is my CPM? So, like, you can't say, okay, I'm just going to say a number and see their feedback. Maybe if they're happy with it, I was too low, If they're unhappy with it, oh shit, because I was also really scared to throw too high numbers, to lose the deal, to not do. So it was in the beginning, it was super difficult. And then also the hiring process, like, okay, who are you going to do this project with? So I was pretty uh, fortunate to start with two good friends. Also being aware that if you do it with friends and it doesn't turn out the right way, that
Not complicated.
that it's complicated. But no, I started with two good people. Like I was from the beginning, I had it very clear that I needed good content. So the way we communicated was going to be super important in how we would attract business. So that the Instagram is our portfolio, that the LinkedIn should be top as as the big sales channel. Um, but just, you have to convey a message also to the content creators, like, okay, this looks good, like
Yeah.
you can free join. And then also from a sales perspective, like just be bold, like reach out to brands endlessly. And also it's true that if you reach out with Fabrizio as a name, Fabrizio Romano as a name, or with other people, it is a bit of a difference. So getting that foot between the door was also a massive help.
Who was your first brand client? The first campaign you made with Double Tap?
The first, I think you're going to like this one because it's pretty random, to be honest. This was the first ever deal. It was the talent was Jessica Macrina. She was a US content creator, and the brand was Gameday. Really, the brand was Gameday. It's a platform in the US called Gameday.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
look them up. Yeah, so
I will.
and then the first big friend I would say is Heineken. The first big friend. We managed to convince them to sponsor one of the first Fabrizio Deadline Day show.
Yeah.
They came on board and they stayed until now, until the day of today.
And that retention has been mainly driven by the result of the campaign.
Yeah.
How is this process of you have a little data analytic background at the beginning of your career. Are you bringing all that data to sponsors as well today, or how's your approach when it comes to reporting results back to the brands?
Yeah, so that's it's funny that you ask because that's also what I said before. So you have all these ideas in mind of like, okay, we need a CRM system, we need data, we need content, we need this, we need that, we need a newsletter, we need people to work together, but also we need to build team activities for the people who work here. We need to give them salary. Oh, we need an office. Like you have all these things that you need to juggle. And data was one of them. And I knew we needed data, but at the beginning, like I had very, very few data. Updating Excel sheets because also once you start, you're not going to contract the best tools, right?
Yeah.
Because we're like, okay, we need to do it by our own now. And then what I also said to the guys from the beginning, it's okay, the reporting, so the sales, the after sales is almost as important as the sale. So I do a campaign with you. It went well. Hey Kike, how's it going? Thanks so much for this campaign. Hope you're happy. By the way, these were the results, and they were better than we expected. Or we kind of underperformed, but it was because of this, and that reason. To be transparent, I think is one of the most important things.
And when you think about a campaign and you see the result, maybe because I think at the beginning everything was more one shot, and now brands are transitioning to a more established partnership where they partner with the content creator and they try to build this association with the brands and everything. And in that, now that the relationships are starting to become longer and longer, you have the opportunity to shift ideas and focus. You you do like a real time monitoring of how the campaign is performing and adapting the content accordingly to your data.
Definitely. So now a good example is we worked with FIFA on a big campaign for the Club World Cup, like really supporting them in the trophy tour and their efforts and bringing content creators to all of the trophy tour stops, and it was a huge campaign. But also after 4 or 5 stops, you notice, for example, one of our pillars was ticket sales. So people needed to click on links, and we noticed that was a bit behind. So okay, what can we learn from the 5 things that we've done now? Because now we do have a platform where we monitor everything, and the content is there in real time, and you can see, okay, who's performing well, who isn't, why, more or less, like what is the sentiment, um, and then you take decisions and you shift. You shift to say, okay, instead of now of doing one story like this, where I'm just going to make a random photo with a ticket link and my face doesn't appear, I'm going to tell the people, okay, speak into the camera and say that you're very excited about this tournament. And that if people are by any mistake in LA or New York, that they should come and watch the match because it's a party for the football world. So also to change the way of how you speak to the people, constantly learning as well from the content from the campaign. I think that's super important to stay on top of it. But also ask the client beforehand. We're going to do this campaign together. You're going to pay me X amount of money. What is success for you? So you don't get afterwards, no, yeah, client's unhappy, or okay, but we never set out any expectations before. No, what is success for you?
Yeah, that's very important because sometimes people tend to think of success in terms of metrics in the platform. Like I want to reach, I don't know, 1 million video views.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's all about business metrics, and it's very important to understand what are the needs. And have you seen or have you ever in conversation with brands come to a point where you say, okay, but wait a minute, why are we doing this? And helping the brand define the goal, or you always get like a very clear strategy and brief?
I would say 60-70% of the time, like we get a clear strategy and brief, but sometimes the rest of the time the client doesn't really know what they want. They know they have a budget, they have to spend it somehow, and they know more or less like which markets are important to them. But the kind of content, they say, hey, here's the budget. What kind of campaign can we do? Say, okay, so you want also for me to do the creative part of this campaign? Yeah, that would be super helpful. Okay, fine. It's gonna cost you more, but then also, okay, where do you want to be seen? What platforms are important to you? What demographics? What ages do you want to impact? Do you just want to get the name out there, or do you really want to drive something? To be fair, now we're getting into a point more and more where brands are more educated. For example, there's a clear guidelines. Okay, I'm going to do a YouTube integration with a YouTuber. That means most of the times I want a direct link click, or I want to make impact because YouTubers are known to be more, let's say, qualitative, right?
Yeah.
Because people watch YouTube videos, they stick for longer. Or for example, for TikTok, you know exactly what kind of audience you impact. But then you're also super dependent of the platforms, because the platforms, they put restrictions more and more, and they know that their ad space is also more valuable. For example, platform like TikTok, once you post something that is sponsored, like it directly plummets because they know it's sponsored, and if you want it to perform well, you have to boost the video. So the platforms are also playing a lot with it. So we try to advise, like, also what would be the good strategy for them sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest value that content creators bring to brands, because if you think about the classic value chain or value creation chain of marketing of any brand, you needed to, okay, I need to spend money on producing the content. Once I need to produce once I spend the money on producing the content, I need to create a media plan and pay for people to see. Um, and before producing the content, I needed the creative agency. So you have creative agency to create the concept, the production company that produce the content, and then you have to pay the media to distribute the content and be seen. With content creators, all this process is accelerated, and you get creative production and distribution in the same person. And not only that, what you were mentioning with the example of the FIFA campaign, you can interact and adapt the content to make sure that you're reaching your target. So as you get the engagement and the performance of the content, you get information that tells you in real time how you should be creating the content. And in your opinion, how are content creators changing the sports landscape at the moment? Because um, this is a huge revolution for all the industries, but sports with that personal connection, it's even more. And I believe personally that content creators are going to be key players in the future of the sport industry at the same level as broadcaster has been with media rights money.
100%. 100%. I think one of the big examples of one of the recent examples that I've seen, besides, like, leave all the content creators, that's the hundreds of content creators, for example, that went to the Champions League final, you know, to tell a story, and they went with the brands and all the partners of the Champions League. They have their specific global location, but also local location. So you would have like a PlayStation Global, they bring out 20 content creators. A PlayStation Italy, they bring out 2 Brazil, etc. Like all the brands, they know, okay, it's a fight for relevance, right?
Yeah.
It's a fight for how can we make uh, like this content world as much as good as possible, but also how do we fight with the other brands, right? So attention. One of the recent examples that I've seen, you had this Legends match before the Champions League final, and man, like me and you, especially like also we're over 30, so Kaka, Snyder, Seydorf, uh, Frank Ribery, but also some older guys. I'm forgetting so many names. You had 40 legends, like really legends, and they made 4 teams, and they did it in a basketball hall. And on each team, this was the craziest thing so far that I've seen. On each team, there was a content creator. On one team, there was Luva, which is a Brazilian guy. On one team, you had Speed.
Yeah.
Of course, Speed, the biggest. On one team, you had a German content creator, and the other one, Lee Autogo, which is an Italian publisher. And you look at it and you say, okay, but these are champions. These are monsters, you know, they're like the best of the best. Why are there content creators on the pitch? And the simple answer is, okay, if you have all these Giovanni Elber and Lothar Matthäus and stuff, yeah, and you know, maybe our uncles would go and our dads, and they would like it and they would invite their friends, but they wouldn't make the effort probably to go to the stadium.
Yeah.
So you need to fill the stadium. So how do you fill the stadium? With Speed. So that's thousands of kids scream to their parents like, yo, I want to go to this thing because Speed is going to be there. The kids, with all due respect, they don't care about Giovanni Elber, you know? They want to go to see their favorite content creators. So this is this crazy change that is going on right now, also with the Kings League. content creators and legends. Once they bring out Shevchenko and Pirlo, and like no one really cares. They still care much more about the DJ Mario and Ibai and stuff. So
100%.
you have like this weird thing now that's okay. You have these legends and people who defined this world and the new gen.
And you have content creators that transition to media companies, and you have the example of Fabrizio Romano,
Yeah.
which is incredible what he has built and what you have built with him on the commercial side.
No, Fabrizio is I think I know many people, but Fabrizio is I think probably the hardest working the guy that I know, just because the hours he put in and the concentration and the consistency for so long, like for 4, 5, 6 years, every day in day out, 10, 15 transfer window, like 18 hours a day, trying to keep up with everything. That's first thing, right? Like the information seeking part as a journalist. But then also, how do I translate all the information that I have into efficient communication? Like people most of the time think he doesn't do it himself, but all the tweets I've seen from close, all the tweets, all the Instagram posts, the stories, recording videos every day. Every day there's 2 YouTube videos of 10 minutes that he puts out. He films them usually without hesitation, without anything. To be able to produce that much amount of content it's hard, very hard. I would say it's almost impossible. Like he produces more than a football club, and he's by himself. And sure, we support with editing videos and stuff, but he does on average 100 tweets a day in a transfer window. 100 tweets, it's 100 Instagram stories. Then he does like around 10, 15 Facebook posts. He does 2 short form videos and 2 YouTube videos. And output in a day, it's crazy. And now you also see the shift that he's doing from being only a football journalist, but also being a publisher. So, for example, Real Madrid is playing Champions League on a Wednesday, and Luka Modric gives an assist. And he is the first one to post a picture of Luka Modric, like good, nicely cut, good lights, good fit. Luka Modric with another assist, the magician, bam, 2 million likes, and he sees that this is as efficient or more than posting about Bournemouth is signing this left back who no one knows of, So he's also making the shift. Okay, I'm also a journalist, but I'm also this content guy.
And I think the future of the sport industry and the future of football in particular, with all the transition and the things we're seeing with media rights, is going to go that way. It's going to go with personalities, content creators that will become publishers, and will find alternative ways to monetize the content, not relying so much on media rights. I think that's the future for me.
100%. I mean, you know more than anyone. Like now, the media rights is such a difficult property to sell. I know the French league is struggling, the Serie A is struggling, like to get those rights away, because okay, would you pay 40, 50 bucks per month to watch these games? If you, like, let's face it, everyone under 18, they prefer to see a TikTok of 60 seconds, show me the best plays. If there's a nice nutmeg, I will see the clip of it. If there is a nice goal, I will probably see it. Like, am I going to watch these 90 minutes now and also pay big money for it?
Yeah.
Probably not. So you rather have like a guy like Ibai, or in Brazil, Casa TV, who are personalities. They stream it. You're watching the game, but you're not really watching the game. You watch the interaction, and you want to see how your favorite personality responds to the game. So this is the shift that we're seeing now, and I think we will go there more and more.
Yeah, I think just you mentioned is the interaction. The interaction is the key. So we'll see what will come. Thank you so much, Aviv, for making the time. There's so many topics in conversation. Probably we'll repeat.
Speak for hours.
We'll repeat this episode in some months and see where we are. And we're excited to see your journey with Double Tap and what the country will take.
Thanks a lot for having me, Kike.
Thank you.